I took a moment to sit down and think. And I felt like I use the illusion of a river. And I felt like I was in this river and I was just fighting to go upstream. Like I was just surviving. My head was bobbing up and down in the water. I was almost drowning, but I was kind of okay. And the surroundings are beautiful, but it was just so hard. And then looking back at how much work I've done and accomplished and the changes, even just since COVID, we were a mom-based business in the basement of my house.
Mm-hmm.
And just before COVID, we moved into commercial space, expanded development, expanded the sales. We tripled sales really at that point and turned it from what I would say is solopreneur or self-employed to being an actual business, which there is a pivot there. And in my opinion, a business, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when the business can operate when you're not there as being part of it. And also I was looking at it being sellable and having something scalable and sellable and documented, I guess is where I was going. What would you call a business?
Yeah, I would say that pivot point is really crucial because that's when people start to come to me. And they're on that point of going, I realize that I need to look at legacy. I may want to get that business ready for sale, or I actually do want to have a number of employees, a larger footprint in the world, but they don't have a plan. Because a lot of times all of the standard operating procedures live in your head.
And then trying to get them out.
Is difficult. Or you've got a couple of employees and they're just not doing it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking it's them. And a lot of times it's me because I haven't actually documented it. I don't actually know how I do things.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to get that out of your head onto paper, but also map out a plan. The Karas Wright Show. I'm Karas Wright, where we have real conversations, unscripted and unfiltered, regarding everything from life to business to leadership. And today I am super excited to have Stephanie Gross from Bumby Wool joining me. She is the CEO and founder of this amazing Alberta-based fashion company. Welcome to the show today, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited for this conversation. We got the opportunity to meet very briefly a few months ago at a networking event.
We did.
And just instantaneously clicked. And I was like, okay. When my podcast producer and I were talking about guests, you were right at the top of that list because I really love your story. Can you share a little bit about that with me today?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me and for asking me a great start-off question. So I started the company 18 years ago. I'm the quintessential bootstrap entrepreneur. Started the company at my kitchen table when my son was born. And I wanted to make cloth diapers for him. Well, no, I wanted to use cloth diapers for him, and I just couldn't find what I was looking for. And so I decided to make some because I like to make things. I'm very creative. And then I made a couple, and then I thought, wow, these are really great. I think I could sell these. So then I started my business. It wasn't very thought out or strategic or planned. I didn't have the business Canva model or any of these sorts of things. And I was up in Fort McMurray, where I always make the joke that you're either making babies or making money up there. And so I started the business, and then we had another kid, and then we shortly thereafter moved down to Red Deer. And that's where I really fell into the wool aspect of my business. And things have definitely evolved since that point.
Wow. So you started with diapers, and over 18 years, you have evolved. I mean, right now you are wearing some beautiful
head to toe.
And so talk to me about what the line looks like today.
So most of the customers that we have are moms. The majority are. There's definitely a few other parental or caregivers that are clients as well, as in grandparents or fathers, but the majority, I would say, are the moms that are purchasing cloth diapers for their children. And wool is an amazing fiber that I'll touch on a little bit. It's been used for diapering, healthcare needs, medical, since the dawn of man, really. It's the original clothing fiber. And in fact, I do make a little joke that it's the only fabric that you can find on Minecraft. Is wool.
It is wool.
It is wool.
Yes, I get that reference. I have 2 boys that were into Minecraft at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's true. When you think about the origin story of wool and how it's been used across the world,
Mm-hmm.
right, in different ways, what is it that attracted you to that? You said you didn't start necessarily with wool, but you are now.
So wool is something that's been used for a cloth diaper cover, like I said, for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it was the main diaper cover that was used before the war. It was either you don't have a diaper cover or it was made from wool. And so I fell into the idea of using wool. I did not invent the idea. And it's just taking something that's known and turning it into something that was mine and the way that I want to use it and the style of it, the dyes. I do all the dyeing as well. And then the demographic of people that were purchasing it thought, hey, I want some of that for me too. So that's where we fell into being a full fashion house, that we have over 10,000 different products now and different patterns. So again, before the war, it used to be that you go to the dress house or the tailor, and they would measure you. They'd have their portfolio of different designs or garments that they would make, and then they would have a wall of fabric. Sometimes you would hear about, the silk trade.
Yes.
Most people have heard of that. So daddy would come home with the different fabrics, and you go to the dressmaker and they would make you a custom garment, and it could take as, a couple weeks or months or years or whatnot to make that garment. And a lot of people would only have a few.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we've really pivoted into being this fast fashion world of clothing that, oh, heaven forbid somebody saw you wearing the same garment twice, or, having disposable clothing. That the biggest contributor to waste on our planet is really the textile industry in a lot of ways. And a lot of plastic clothing and disposable clothing that just, have you ever had a shirt that fit well and then you wash it once and it just doesn't fit anymore? Or
we just bought T-shirts for my husband Christmas, and one of the T-shirts shrunk dramatically, right? Higher premium product. And it was like, well, wait, what just happened there?
Right.
But I agree with you. The concept of fast fashion has pivoted and changed the way that we approach things compared to years ago. And it is not eco-friendly and it's not sustainable. So what are you doing at Bumby Wool that's changing that?
So, and then you asked me a question that I didn't quite answer, so I will answer it. See, I am paying attention. So how did I fall into wool? And I have always been, I grew up in Vancouver Island and in Nanaimo, and I've always been about just growing up thinking about the environment and making sustainable choices, and also thrifty and low waste. I hate throwing things out, and using leftovers. And if I can reuse something, I will. And that's just always been my way. And I was actually born in New Zealand, and my grandmother was born in New Zealand. Bit of travel. My dad's British and mom's actually Canadian, but they met in New Zealand backpacking in the 70s. And my brother and I were born there, and we moved to Canada when we were young. So I don't have, I have an accent, but not the cute New Zealand one. So wool was just part of my, heritage and I also like science. I was a science and math major in university, and the more you learn about the magic of wool fiber, it's amazing the properties that this fiber has that no other fiber compares to. It's temperature regulating. It's you can see it on the desert plains as coverings. It's SPF protective. It wicks sweat, having a cooling effect. It's antibacterial. It reduces odors. Sports enthusiasts are using it. It is naturally flame retardant, so first responders are using it. The finest suits that you find are made from wool. It's something that people knew for centuries, but it just fell away from us in the 1900s, and then I think some people are really coming back to it. And I am very passionate about explaining this fabric and this fiber and how we can use it and how it's sustainable and good for the environment. And my whole business has been built around that aspect, with also understanding the modern person's need to have ease and comfort at the same time. So a lot of wool we think of as being itchy and scratchy and hard to care for. And all of the fabric that we have is machine washable. I pre-shrink it so that you don't have to think. But just like what your shirt, that fabric wasn't pre-shrunk before they cut and sewed it. So that's one of the problems. So I make sure that it's cared for, like that we prevent any issues so that when you get it at home, a busy family are able to look after it properly and it fit into their lifestyle, which I think is really important.
When I think about my basics that I have, many of them are wool and sustainable wool, different, I guess, weights of that, depending on whether it's spring, summer. And it's true, like I do a lot of hiking. And that fabric that I have, I gravitate towards wool because I know during a day, if you're hiking underneath the shelter, I'm going to need something a little warm, and it does regulate depending on whether you're in the sunshine or not, which is fantastic. I love that.
I'm so glad that you even know about it.
Oh, I do.
Oh,
I do.
great.
You can come and check out the closet. There's lots of wool in there.
And have you traveled with it before?
I have, and which is great because you don't have to worry. You can fold it up. You can wear, let's be on. I'll be really, really blunt.
You can throw it into a bag.
I can just throw it into the bag.
Yeah. It's wrinkle resistant, smell resistant.
Yeah.
Dries super fast. You can wash it in the sink and then just hang it up and it's dry overnight.
Exactly. Yeah. So it does make it really easy for travel. And then to your point, you've got it it's timeless.
Yeah.
So those staples are really, really, I've got pieces. I honestly have 2 pieces that are my grandmother's. So we're talking 50s.
And it's time. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, which is great. So you're an Alberta-based company.
I am.
And you've got some exciting things that are happening. So that's kind of your origin story. Is there anything else you want to cover off on your OG story before we talk about what you guys are doing now?
I think the whole demographic of people that are starting a business now is different from when I started as well. I was at the dawn of internet shopping. It was still called the Facebook, I think. I thought there was a difference between an iPhone and a smartphone. Like I didn't know what that was. And Amazon was mailing DVDs or books and Netflix DVDs, mailing them. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
So I sometimes feel fortunate that I started an e-commerce business at that time because I was one of the front runners of doing that. With that being said, there's so much room in this ecosystem for people to do some really great work. So I think that's all I really wanted to touch on with that. But,
yeah. So much has changed. I mean, at that time, I was a banker and we were trying to transition people from it's okay to use the ATM to yes, telephone banking is here and it is okay that you can start using the internet. So it's safe and it is okay. And now you pivot 20 years and majority of users are using internet banking and fewer of them are going into the bank. So
Absolutely.
Just that shift and that change. And even with the business owners that I supported when I was a business banker, their evolution to your point is really
the needs
about
have changed, the knowledge has changed.
The knowledge and the pace of change is lightning fast now. So you've got to figure that out.
Yes.
So where does that bring Bumby now?
So that's a really great question. And I think as I mentioned before we started our conversation, I've gone through a major pivot. In September, usually it's the busiest time of the year for us. And we're so busy that I'm working 18 hours a day and I'm super busy, which I love. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I love the team that I'm working with. My first 2 hires are still with me for 16 years.
Wow.
And which I'm very proud of. So that reinforces that I'm a reasonably good boss and friend, I guess, that they're still with me. And I realized something. So come October, we weren't busy. And we weren't busy because the economy has changed. And I think that there's a lot of people that are really struggling financially out there right now. And with the tariffs and uncertainty, that the last thing that they're going to be doing is investing in a classic, timeless piece of apparel is a hard thing. And I've even have customers messaging me saying, please stop making such beautiful, amazing things because I can't buy them right now.
Wow.
Like a few people have actually messaged that, and they were meaning it as a joke, but yet it is the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And that is really why people are gravitating towards fast fashion, because it's accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the pitfall. So what's the answer to that?
Well, I don't know the answer to that one specifically, but what I can tell you, what I realized. So I took a moment to sit down and think. And I felt like I use the illusion of a river, and I felt like I was in this river and I was just fighting to go upstream. Like I was just surviving. My head was bobbing up and down in the water. I was almost drowning, but I was kind of okay. And the surroundings are beautiful, but it was just so hard. And then looking back at how much work I've done and accomplished and the changes, even just since COVID, we were a mom-based business in the basement of my house.
Mm-hmm.
And just before COVID, we moved into commercial space, expanded development, expanded the sales. We tripled sales really at that point and turned it from what I would say is solopreneur or self-employed to being an actual business, which there is a pivot there. And in my opinion, a business, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when the business can operate when you're not there as being part of it. And also I was looking at it being sellable and having something scalable and sellable and documented, I guess is where I was going for. What would you call a business?
Yeah, I would say that pivot point is really crucial, because that's when people start to come to me. And they're on that point of going, I realize that I need to look at legacy. I may want to get that business ready for sale, or I actually do want to have a number of employees, a larger footprint in the world, but they don't have a plan. Because a lot of times all of the standard operating procedures live in your head.
And then trying to get them out.
Is difficult. Or you've got a couple of employees and they're just not doing it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking it's them. And a lot of times it's me, because I haven't actually documented it. I don't actually know how I do things.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to get that out of your head onto paper, but also map out a plan.
And that can be so challenging, especially with the personality type that takes to be a business owner.
Right.
I've met quite a few, and I feel part of this group of being, I just feel like I never finish things. Like I get 80% of the way, and then I struggle with that last little bit. Mm-hmm. It's so boring and it takes so long. But I find when I'm working with somebody that I can partner with, that can finish those things with me or for me, or I can data dump on somebody and then, right? And then when you have that coach or that mentor that you can and they compare it back to you, what you already know, but just getting it out.
It helps. And especially if you're a solopreneur or you don't have that leadership team, we have often three sides to leadership. One being creative. You mentioned you were a really creative, visionary person. You're like, I have all of these ideas. But there becomes that technical expert also. I'm good at doing all the sewing and the thing. And then there's the managerial side of that, the strategic arm, the aspect of the operations, the making the cold calls, figuring out, where's our numbers at? And so often we don't have all three of those. So we need partners. And if you don't have a large leadership team, that's where a good coach or thought partner can come into consideration to be able to do that while you scale. And then there is that pivot point where you're moving away from being the person that does all of the things to the delegation. And that often is a challenge to let go and let somebody else take that on.
And I think it can be easier to delegate when you have a plan written out so that they know what they're doing. Delegating on the fly and then not having clear instructions, and then it's frustrating for everybody. And that's one of the great things that I have on my team is that the people that are there fill in the gaps that I leave behind. And sometimes I'll go into a room and I make a big mess, literally a physical mess of fabric or patterns I'm looking for, and I'll just leave and I say, "I'm sorry, I left a mess. I'm giving you gainful employment by, helping you." And they laugh a little bit, and then they help because they know that that's me being creative at that point and doing something. And I think one of the greatest things that I've learned over the past few years, especially, is knowing your weaknesses and knowing your strengths, and then focusing on enhancing your strengths and filling in the gaps of those weaknesses. So, and being okay with them. A weakness isn't bad or wrong. Everybody has a superpower in them. And quite often that superpower can also be their greatest weakness if it's not handled right. And that always happens in movies, right? Like the superhero is struggling with their own mindset, and then they're hurting people, or they're hiding or whatnot. That imposter syndrome, that they just feel like they don't own that superpower or they shouldn't have it. And then they're sad and alone and, all those things. And then but when you own that I don't finish jobs. So, like, for instance, when I'm cleaning the house or doing some tidying, I jump from job to job to job to job, and I walk into a room and just make it a little better, and I go to the next room, and then I'll walk back in the room and go, "Oh, this isn't so overwhelming anymore," and then I'll just
and then be able to,
and that works for me. And some people, and it's not multitasking, it's just single tasking until I get bored, and then I move on to something else. Yeah. And I found like that worked really well for what we were doing. And this pivot that I had was because I can get so focused on whatever it is that I'm working on. Like when I do focus, I'm very focused. And then I realized that I was in this river swimming really hard, and I stopped and I said, what I am doing is not sustainable. This isn't working. So instead of crying about it or crumbling, I got out of the river and I stopped and I paused and I breathed and I just bore witness to what was happening and to myself. And it was very empowering because I recognized like the lack of sales. I mean, I played a role. My website was a hot mess. Like, there's some other factors that came in as well. But I realized that a huge pivot happened, that my son had moved off to university, and my family and the families of the women that were working for me, we raised our kids with this business. When the first hire started working with me, our kids were 2 and 4. They're not in school. She brought them to work every day. And the other woman, her kids were in elementary school, but she would get them to school and then come to work and then get home before they got home. So we were centered around our families. They were the goal. Somebody asked me the other day, what was success to you? What is success? And it was to raise these amazing families. And I'm so proud of the relationships with the spouses. Like all 3 of us, we have good, healthy marriages. We each have 2 kids. They're all the 2 youngest are in grade 11, and they're great boys. And the other kids are all off in university or just graduating. My son is taking nuclear engineering, and he has a 3.94% GPA from his first year in Ontario. Wow. And that's success for me. Yeah. That we were able to put food on the table, do something good. The product that we were making, we had impact on our clients, but yet we were there for our families. And that was we chose it. It was a strategy. Not everybody is as fortunate, and I do not take that for granted. I feel so honored to have been able to provide that place of employment for these people, these families, and then to do that for myself and my kids as well and so when things weren't busy and I realized just sit back and be proud of that for a minute, and then recognize that my life has changed now. And my husband's working from home. I've become very, very incompetent at making dinner. It wasn't intentional. I was just so busy that I just wasn't. So he's taken over making dinner, grocery shopping, all of it. I don't do laundry really anymore. I'm working, and the seasons have changed.
Yeah. So there's a lot there.
There was a lot.
And I want to pull out a couple
I saw you
really
into
awesome
I want to say something.
I want to say something. But there is some really important things to take out of this. As a entrepreneur, often we are our business. So what's happening in our lives trickles over to work and the other way around. And so your vision mission for your business was really surrounding making life better and getting those kids off, launching onto university.
Absolutely.
And so once that happened, that 10-year, 15-year vision shifted and you've got to replace it. The other thing is just the role fluidity that you have at home. And I have the same thing right now. My husband right now is at home in between jobs, and he's doing the thing. Doing the groceries, doing the dishes, doing the laundry, doing all that same thing, because in that season, it makes sense. Now, we know it's temporary for you and your husband. It's that collaboration that comes from having a strong partner.
And I think that it's also, you can have a strong partner. There's also the conversation and the strategy and and planning. Like, it wasn't just by accident that any of these things happened.
Right.
And when I started my business, I had a conversation with him. Is this going to work for us, that you're the sole breadwinner and I'm at home to look after our children? Like, we decided before we got pregnant that was the role. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I also wanted to start a business. And we talked about it. Is that going to work for you, that sometimes I won't be available to, I'm not like sitting at home with making a martini and, like the 1960s wife at all. And I was just, with that, I knew what my role was. I wanted to look after him. Like, he was there to work, and I was there to make sure that he was able to get off to work. I didn't make him lunch or anything, but there was food on the table and the groceries were there and the laundry was done and the kids were available. And then, that was my job, and I took that as my job. And then I started the business and I took that as my job as well. And but there was an order of operations there, I guess, right? And then now the seasons have changed, and I stay, like, his job is stable and he's got more time and the kids are okay. They're off on their own doing things. And now I said to him, okay, the seasons have changed. I need you to look after the dinner now. And it's his job.
Right.
And he's like, what do you want for dinner? I don't care. I literally don't care. Like, just feed me whatever you want.
Tell me what time I need to be there, and I'm there.
Because the roles have changed, right? And there's not about genders. It's about who was doing that job. And that was so empowering for our relationship and everything. But it's a communication and planning and conversation that needed to happen.
Right. But what's really cool, and we do the same thing in our household, it's that it's almost a business meeting to discuss what's happening in the house.
Actually, I say we're having a staff meeting.
We're having a staff
meeting. I would bring the kids in for staff meetings too.
And what that allows for clarity.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to understand, and Erin calls it, we get this opportunity to walk around the problem.
Yes.
So if there's anything that we're seeing or foreseeing that could be coming down the hopper as causing any friction, we can navigate through that. And that is the same thing that many of us do in our businesses, or should do in our businesses.
Because it's all the same thing.
So the other thing that you said that was really important was the importance of planning. And one thing I will shout from the rooftops is, yes, you need a strategic plan. You don't need the traditional 20-page business plan, but you do need something that is your map to your 10-year, your 5 3-year, your 1 year, and then your strategic of how the heck am I going to make sure that the things that I want to do are done in that year. And that will be something I will just continue to.
Totally agree with you.
I've been singing, tilting at that windmill since in 2009, I think. You need it, because otherwise, how do you know if you're on track or not?
And I think that it, just like I said before, I think it's about not just about business, but about your life.
Yeah.
And things can pivot. Things can change. It's a living document. But if you don't know where you're going, how are you ever going to get there?
Right. Or you don't know what necessarily is on track, off track,
Mm-hmm.
and how to pivot in the case of uncertainty. I mean, none of us saw COVID coming.
No.
And so many business owners didn't have the pivot and were able to thrive the way that you did throughout it. But it also gave you the ability to be nimble and recognize that you had to get out of the river.
Well, and that's just it. So I was listening to his podcast the other day, and they were talking about Michael Phelps and how one of the things that he does. And I don't like to take it from like the negative of like, what's the worst that could happen, but what could happen and what am I going to do about it?
Right.
What challenges could you foresee? And then how are you going to resolve those challenges? So he actually won a world record.
Mm-hmm.
His goggles had filled up with water. He was completely blinded. He couldn't see. And he won the world record and didn't even know he had won it until a couple seconds after, when he came out of the water and took his goggles off and looked around and went, oh, I won. Because he had envisioned that and what he was going to do. He knew exactly how many strokes he was going to do. And I really try to do that so that when opportunities arise or challenges arise, I'm ready for what, and you could call that mind mapping or manifesting or, I'm just always envisioning what the future's going to look like and what some possibilities are going to be. Mm-hmm. So when something happens, I'm able to pivot and action.
There is a difference between ruminating and planning for strategic pitfalls or challenges. Mm-hmm. And that is really an important distinction for business and distinction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So you've 18 years, you come across a few challenges.
Yeah.
What are a few that you'd love to highlight to maybe help some business owners sidestep it?
Well, that's a really good question. I can give a couple of specifics, and I think some of it it's about mindset because it all comes down to exactly the same thing. Mm. But I love telling stories. So one story that I like to share, when I was, I think I was like 4 or 5, my mom had asked me if I wanted to move to Japan. Mm-hmm. And I immediately said yes. And I was envisioning myself eating sushi and I don't know, all the 1980s things that you could think from a cartoon about Japan. Mm-hmm. And then she asked, and then I started crying a little bit. And she asked me why I was crying. And I said, well, I'll go, but I'll miss you guys. I was completely and totally prepared to move to Japan by myself. I was 4 or 5 years old. And I remember her asking me this question. And I think I've just always innately been like that whatever challenges are, I got this. And there's something, that's one of my superpowers. It's gotten me into hot water sometimes, definitely. But that's also when I'm in control and driving that bus. I met my husband. He's actually from Costa Rica, and we met and we fell in love so quickly. And he was on a temporary job, situation. And the job ended, and it was the job contract, and he moved back to Costa Rica. So, and he's like, "Do you want to come with me?" And wow. I did hesitate for a little bit. But not long. And I remember him saying to me, I had a dream that you dropped me off at the airport and said, it was nice to meet you. And I thought, no, that's not the life that I want to lead. So yeah, I packed everything up and I moved down there with him. And we got married less than a year after we met. And we are just hitting that half a life together, 24 years old, and we're 48 and been married for 24 years. And crazy, right?
So from swimming up a river to diving into the pool, deep end.
Oh, no, not pool. River.
No,
Another river. But that river is going so fast. Yeah, it's exactly where I want to go. It's so easy when life is aligning, And so those are a couple of just examples of that. And I think that that's one of the things that that I've really excelled in, is just being able to run with that, but also having that strategy of where I'm going and what I'm doing, and
a little bit of self-trust in knowing that you could navigate it. Yeah, that if something happened, you'd be able to
just handle it.
To go, that 4-year-old in Japan is just
and I think that's something really empowering for business owners or really anywhere, is just walk into the room with confidence, walk into the situation that you're supposed to be there. And if you're not supposed to be there, you can always leave, but don't be timid in the back corner and assume that the people want to talk to you. You can handle whatever situation arises. You can pause and think.
Yeah.
or you can walk out the door. But if you never walk in, you never know what could happen.
Right. My mantra, and this has literally been my life's mantra because it was written on the little card that was in my baby book, is I will find a way or make one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so it's that self-knowledge of I've got the skills, something could go wrong, but I will figure it out and pivot as needed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So challenges, if you were to give three pieces of advice that would that you learned through those challenges, what would they be?
I don't know if I'll go with necessarily challenge, but something that I would love to share, like wisdom pieces, which I guess come through overcoming challenges. Knowing your why, I think, just should lead all of us. What's your purpose in life? And taking the time to really figure out what that is through your business, through your personal life, through, what you're doing. If you know why you're doing something, it makes any question so much easier to answer.
If you know your why.
Okay. And I've learned that from watching some Simon Sinek videos. I love Simon Sinek. So the celery test, look that up if you don't know it.
Yes.
And I find that transcends the business. It transcends your staff. If it all trickles down from the top. So if you know what your why is and your team knows what the why is, they can answer those questions when you're not there, which I think is really empowering.
Yes.
Right?
When you know your why, being able to translate the what and the how becomes so much easier.
Exactly.
Yes.
Very much so. So that one's, and then it also makes everything so much easier to work harder too. When you do have that, when you're like, why am I doing this? Like, oh yeah, I know why I'm doing this. And it makes it so much easier to do the thing, I also find for myself that I'm 100% in with whatever I'm doing. So just be present and if you need, and witness your emotions. Like, you don't need to engage with whatever. I guess that's really the two separate things. So let me reel back. Be present with what's happening. So when I am working, I am working. When I'm with my family, I'm with my family. The phone goes away. And when I'm resting, I am resting. And you could use the word deserve or need. Like, every human needs to have that. And it's okay. Like, you don't, if you're thinking about all the things that you should be doing for work while you're resting, you're not really resting. And find tools to help you shut your brain off, whether you're writing them down but give yourself the permission to be with your family when you're with your family, and give yourself your permission to be with your work when you're not with your family, so that because so many people, they feel guilty that they're working when they should be with their family, and vice versa.
I want you to just elaborate on what's been the benefit for you with being present with whatever you're doing.
So I've been listening to some podcasts and getting more engaged, and I'm so often seeing, and it's in TV and movies, and there's this running theme that I'm seeing with people that have been in business for a long time or doing something for a long time, the guilt that they feel that they weren't present for those family moments. You don't, on your deathbed, you're not thinking, I wish I had have filled out more paperwork, I'd worked more on that spreadsheet. They want to be with their family, and also your job pays for that time that you get with your family. And it's okay to do those two things. Just be aware. And I think just being, like you're talking about, the strategy and just being strategic with those different parts of your life and allowing yourself the grace and the space to do the things that you need to do when you're doing them. And otherwise, you just feel like you're drowning. Is what I found.
Yeah, there is a lot of science that talks about the cognitive load when you are not present is so much higher. And so you're expending more energy. Yes, the guilt is there when you're thinking about work and you're at home, or work home and you're at work.
And I think women tend to do that a little bit more. Oh, yeah. And sometimes we get angry. It's like, my head is so filled with all the things that I need to do to take care of the household. And then maybe their spouse is just thinking about Well, I don't know.
Apparently, there's a nothing box.
There is a nothing box. Yes.
They can literally think about nothing.
And as I approach, menopause and all these things, I have a nothing box too. I found it. It's a beautiful thing. Find your nothing box.
Okay.
Like I get my work done and I take the notes that I need to take. I try really hard not to forget. But yeah, I can shut it off.
Yeah.
And like right now, this entire time that I've been speaking with you, I've been so here speaking with you and I've enjoyed every moment. I haven't thought about what my kids are, I don't know what we're having for dinner. I don't know if there's any doctor's appointments.
Like, you don't know if there's 15 voicemails.
It is
waiting.
Not my problem. No. And I really, approached that with my job is to make sure that I'm whole and present for my family, that I'm whole and present for my customers and my staff, and that there's food in my house. I'm not responsible for your joy. I'm not responsible for your entertainment. I'm not responsible to get the food from the cupboard into your mouth. As the kids get older, it's not my responsibility. Yes. And it's owning that. And it's like sometimes my kids they don't say to me, I'm bored. They've been doing their laundry since they were like 5. And, they might say they're hungry and I'll give them some solutions or like dinner's coming or there's a snack cupboard or whatever. But it's not I'm really identifying what my job is, what my role is in my life, I think.
Again, that's role clarity.
Yes.
And that's also empowering them. We do the same thing.
Yes.
Like all of the kids always learned how to do laundry, how to make basic meals. Both our boys, 13 and 22, knew how to cook early. The girls did as well. And
so my son is off in university in an apartment by himself. Yep. He is ready and prepared to be there. He made his homemade pierogies. He's 18 years old and he's just making the most amazing healthy foods for himself and thriving and happy and keeping his space clean. And he's aware and we cultivated that environment for him. So, what was the other thing? So I said the why and then
being present.
Emotions. It was about emotions.
Yes, it was.
Witnessing our emotions that, sometimes you might see somebody doing something that you don't necessarily like and then not liking the moment, doesn't have to be the person. And the same thing with us. It's like, oh, I made a mistake, forgiving yourself and then moving past it and pausing, like I'm feeling something and then pause and then interact, like and strategically and with thought behind it. So you're driving the bus of your emotion, not the other way around. So it's okay that you're angry in the situation, but I can communicate without the anger. And I think just being aware and witnessing emotions before reacting and understanding where your reactions came from and what emotions maybe triggered them from your childhood or past history, and then being cognizant going forward as to how you want to interact and then practicing that.
Yeah.
I think is really important.
The act of feeling the emotions all the way through. I remember having a conversation, I was a bank manager at the time, with my staff who I'd taken over a team and we were the bottom of the barrel and they didn't want to look at their numbers. And it was like, oh my God. And I was like, it's just data. Like, don't let that rule you. Look at it. If you got an emotion, great, but think it and feel it all the way through and then do what you need to do.
Do something about it. Yeah.
Do something about it. Absolutely. I want to briefly just talk about where Bumby is going before we wrap up. So what's next for you guys?
Well, I'm so excited about this year. And I think because we were talking about strategy and what's my why. And my why is about, we rewrote the value proposition, and it's still wrapped around the same things, but taking the intelligence of wool and making, I played with the words quite a bit, and making life a little bit more comfortable to tackle what life asks of you. And that's what I'm about, and not just about wool as well, but how can I uplift the people around me? How can I empower the people around me, and being engaged with community, cultivating and we have the most amazing Facebook group. I find Facebook can be a bit of a Armageddon out there, and a lot of negativity. And our Facebook group is amazing. There's a couple thousand women in there, and a few men that we talk and support. And then getting engaged with our community in Alberta. So coming to podcast interviews like with you, and the Alberta Women Entrepreneur Group, which I just was a keynote speaker. I brought a water bottle here, and just showing up, and volunteerism to show up and engage with the community, and mentorship, and just being out there and presenting my brand and my personal brand, because I have some value to add, I think, and just being engaged and just seeing where things take me. And I've had some amazing experiences with some students. Ripen, which I think
I'm familiar with Ripen, yes.
Right. And a fantastic organization that brings together businesses and students to get valuable work experience for students. And the entrepreneur businesses will get free students working for them, and the students get paid. It's just a whole symbiotic, beautiful relationship. And then I get to meet the youth and future workers. Like, oh my goodness, giving me faith in humanity is. And there's just so many ways of engaging locally that I'm participating with.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing the power of the community, the power of giving back, the power of pivoting. Stephanie, I really want to thank you very much for coming on the Karas Wright Show and sharing your story, because this is so empowering to see how over 18 years you've been able to shift from diapers to community engagement.
Thank you very much for having me.
Amazing.
And I did actually bring a little present for you.
Ooh.
So I don't know if you want to open it up after or not, but
I will hold on to this.
I like to share some of the amazing products that we have, and I really appreciate being invited today.
So we appreciate you sharing your story and can't wait. Where can we find you?
So the website, bumbywool.com, that was one of the questions that we kind of talked about before. Where did the name come from?
Yeah.
It was originally Bumblebee Baby, because bumblebees were all the rage. And it's just the first few letters and last few letters, and it's completely made up. Which has been great for search engine algorithm, actually. So you look up Bumby Wool, you're going to find me. I'm all over the internet and Reddit and Facebook and LinkedIn. If anybody is interested in connecting with me, I would love for you to reach out, especially through LinkedIn, in any sort of business engagement.
Yes. And we will make sure that there's links to AWE, to Bumby Wool, to Ripen as well in the show notes. And so thank you so much for joining us, and it's Monday right now. Have a marvelous Monday and lead with heart.
Thank you.